welcome to the Scottish Mountain Bike Gathering 2020. I'm delighted to be joined today by actually my boss, Craig Byrne, who is the CEO of Scottish Cycling, who's going to talk today about the work that Scottish Cycling is doing to deliver its strategy from 2019 to 2023 and creating a world-class sporting system for Scottish athletes and cyclists. So welcome. How are you doing today, Craig?
Well, thanks, Graham. I hope you are. I hope you slept last night.
Yeah, a little bit. Laptop dying didn't help. But anyway, over to yourself today. As is before in previous sessions, if people want to, they can chat through the chat box. If they want to direct questions, I'll be monitoring the Q&A box, and we'll have time for questions after your presentation, Craig. So, yeah, over to yourself.
Thanks, Graham, and just firstly, good morning and welcome everyone. Delighted to be invited to address conference today, and just thank you all for your participation. As Graham said, feel free to bring Q&As into the chat. We'll try and cover as much as we can. If we don't have the answers, we'll certainly come back to you. I'm going to follow Graham's brief as much as I possibly can. So the plan is to speak for around 25 to 30 minutes, and then hopefully we can open it up to a Q&A. And I'm sure if, depending on how much you've got, I'm sure Graham will have some questions for me anyway. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to hope the technology works. So let's try this. And can you all see that? Perfect. Okay, so morning, I'm Craig Byrne, the Chief Executive of Scottish Cycling. I've been around nine years in Scottish cycling now. I think it's fair to say the sport has transformed. You know, we've had new disciplines, we've had a huge growth in membership and major events. So what I'm going to do today is cover a number of things. If we can get the presentation to move forward, that would be good. You still see my cover screen? Okay, perfect. It's working. Okay, so today I'm going to cover our strategy, not in a huge amount of detail. I can point to where the original strategy is, but I'll give you a sense of it, and also how we link with developing mountain biking in Scotland, which is an integral part of Scottish cycling. And Graham, as he said at the start, Graham is an integral part of our senior leadership team, and he's supported alongside our head of performance and coaching, our head of development and participation, myself, and our head of business operations. I think it'd be remiss not to talk about COVID and just where we're at and how we recover, and again dealing with arguably the crisis, but also looking at the opportunities. So I'll touch upon that. I'm then going to link our strategy to what we actually do, and as I go through that, again, each of our pillars, I'll link it as much as I can to developing mountain biking and just what we're doing around mountain biking, and you'll see that a lot of it's codependent, and it all actually ties together, hopefully. I'm going to talk about some of the opportunities and really just some reflections about how we share the future. So in terms of our strategy, hopefully people have seen it. As I said, I'm not going to go through it. It really is about providing the direction for the sport, the direction for the organisation, and actually showing that leadership and putting it into action. We are the national governing body for the sport in Scotland. We want to be the voice of sport. We are the largest membership organisation. And I think that's important. Our members are individuals, they're clubs, they're associations, and also groups. And we're very much out here to represent the aspirations of our community, whether that be partners, whether that be competitors, whether that be social cyclists, or indeed volunteers and stakeholders who invest and are involved in our sport. Our overall mission, we want to inspire the nation to participate in cycling, and importantly, for that community to realise its full potential. And we use the word potential there, not in a performance elite sense, but the potential of any individual who comes into the sport, whether that be an official, an athlete, a volunteer, a coach, or indeed even parents, and how we hook parents into to help the sport. Our job is not to deliver everything. I think we have a small number of staff. Our headquarters is in Glasgow. We obviously have the regional office in Glentress, where DMBNS are based. But our job is very much about providing leadership. We enable our members, our clubs and our partners to develop cycling, and importantly in an open and inclusive manner. And I think those are involved in receiving or giving out public funding will be very clear. The whole social justice and equality is a top government priority. So when I'm talking about our strategy and bringing it to life, it's not an add-on. We want to thread it and embed it in everything we do. So equality in our sport, there are some real challenges that will come on to, but it's important and it's front and center within our strategy. This is what I call the elevator pitch. I'm not going to read that. We obviously have our overall vision, our mission, our values, our strategic pillars, which I'll touch upon, and some of the outcomes that we're looking to address. And importantly, what I would say is our strategy is a live document. Yes, we have to publish it at the start, but we do see this as a live, evolving document, and it will evolve as things change around us. And when we wrote this, for example, we hadn't secured 2023 in the Cycling World Championships. We hadn't secured an £8 million facilities fund. So the only constant we do know is that strategy is about evolution, and it's about changing and adapting to the circumstances. This is what it looks like in terms of the pillars. We've identified the outcomes and some key deliverables. I'm not going to go through this, but the slides will be available. And I'm going to touch upon the 4 pillars in terms of the delivery. But before I do that, I just wanted to touch upon COVID, as I alluded to at the start. COVID for Scottish cycling. When I look back at the February draft budget for 2021, looking at all the risks that we were going to face as a result of COVID, we were looking at potentially a loss of income of around £700,000. And that, from an organisation that turns over £2.5 million, it's quite a sizable chunk of our budget. So, COVID, we didn't know how long the bridge was, as the Minister said this morning, how long that bridge was going to last, how long we needed to keep the bridge in place. So what we've been doing really since February, March is there's a COVID group that meets weekly. That's made up of the chairman, our chair of finance and governance, a chap called John Watt, Martin Cook is our chairman, of course, Paul Stark, head of business, and myself as the CEO. So every week, things were changing, whether that be guidance, whether it be looking at government financial support, looking at remote working, the office, everything. So logistics about how you keep the organisation to survive, how you remain relevant, and particularly as a membership organisation, how we continue to engage, how we support our membership through this period. There were obviously risks around our commercial income, which is not an insignificant amount of money. And again, we have a very rich partnership with British Cycling and HSBC UK Bank. But again, if we couldn't deliver their rights and their properties, was that income at risk? So again, those were some of the considerations. And again, our partnership income related to that, whether that be through the development mountain biking partners or indeed through partners such as Glasgow Life, who invest in our Go Ride and our HSBC Core City programme. Those were risks because if we can't deliver the properties, why would people continue to invest in Scottish cycling? And again, as a development organisation or development agency, a lot of our resources tied up against staff because people make things happen and we invest in programmes and activities. Obviously, membership. Up until now, we retain about 83% retention in membership, which is good, and it's high compared to a lot of other sports. That was obviously at risk. We were trying to engage to try and ensure members stayed loyal and continued their support, but we also recognised that there were real harsh financial realities facing a lot of individuals and a lot of families, people who were at risk of losing their job and their businesses, etc. So, membership was a key consideration. Some of our forecasts were dropping 20, 30% of membership. What I can report is this time against last year, we're 9% down overall, which again, I think that is a good outcome and certainly was a good outcome against our financial planning. And obviously, where we are unable to deliver activity, particularly activity that generates income, such as some of our coaching sessions, our coach education, etc., that income was obviously at risk. So those are the types of headlines that would make up our risk to income. I've mentioned the COVID group that met weekly. What I can say is that I believe we've managed the crisis effectively, and we've also looked for the positives within that. Sport Scotland, and huge thanks to Sport Scotland, who are our main investment partner. We receive over £900,000 a year from Sport Scotland, mixed between lottery and exchequer. They provided us with the flexibility, so the money, in terms of the grant award, would be ring-fenced against performance programs, coaching programs, participation programs, certain staffing. So we were given full flexibility to move that money around to try and sustain what activity we could, but importantly to protect people's jobs. So huge thanks to our partners, and that also includes a lot of our DMBNS funding partners who provided that flexibility to basically carry forward money as well against future activity that was suspended during the COVID period. We also made use of the job retention scheme, and I think it goes without saying that no chief executive of any organisation wants to freeze posts. No chief exec wants to put people on a job retention furlough scheme, but ultimately, we took advantage of those support packages that were available, first and foremost to protect the organisation, and secondly, and as importantly, to protect staff and to protect jobs in the long term. So, these decisions were not taken lightly. We knew it would have an impact on the organisation, on our culture, on people's mental health, and also on our ability to support our partners and ultimately deliver on the ground. So, along with the senior leadership team and our board, and the rest of the organisation, we put those plans into place. We've managed to get through to where we are now, and I am delighted to report that all our staff are now back in the organisation, and we have now opened up the recruitment process, particularly for our regional club development coordinator. So that's a positive. And obviously, when we can't utilise the velodrome, we're not going to have training camps, we're not going to be competing abroad, etc. There were some fairly significant programme costs that we were able to basically reduce. So all in all, we've managed to balance things out. We are heading for hopefully a break-even situation for this financial year. So all in all, I think that myself, the senior leadership team, which includes Graham, and the board, we've managed the organisation as well as we possibly could have in really, really challenging times. But importantly, in every crisis comes opportunities, and we had a duty to ourselves, to our professionalism, but also to our membership and our partners to look at where are the opportunities and how do we remain relevant. So one thing is, we looked at what can we do virtually, what can we still do, and we worked very closely with the government and Sports Scotland around guidance and also lobbying and making a strong case that cycling should continue and people should still be able to cycle. And there was all sorts of challenges over 5 miles and whether you could go into other areas and leave your home, etc. So again, the guidance was something that was about protecting the integrity of cycling, but also to ensure that people could stay on their bikes, and also where we have organised activity, particularly through our clubs and our breeze and our organised groups, that we could work with that guidance to ensure that activity could still happen, but obviously in a much more controlled environment with COVID officers, risk assessments, social distancing, etc., etc. So again, a big opportunity around that. The activity booklets, which are pictured on the screen here, again in partnership with Digby Brown, one of our sponsors, we produced them. We had 26,000 or so downloaded and ordered. So people picked those up, whether it be schools, whether it be local communities, families, and individuals. So again, something that we could do to try and get people on bikes, but also trying to give them the skills and the confidence to cycle more often. We've utilised technology, and like today, we're all getting used to Zoom and Teams and other things, but our engagement with clubs has been really positive over this period. We've got some amazing stats to back that up. Our engagement through our digital channels has been really positive, and really with some of that headroom in place, we've been able to take forward a number of projects, which I'll touch upon as we go through the presentation. And a lot of those projects that were really on the to-do list, that we wanted them to happen, but because we deliver so many national championship events and all the activity, and again, with resource, you just sometimes don't get to them. So we were absolutely determined that we were going to use this downtime to really take forward some of our big projects that were going to shape the sport into the future around governance, but also around delivery models, etc. And I'll touch upon that. And importantly, how we continue to support athletes. So whether that was about shipping out turbo trainers for everybody to have in their home, whether it was about looking at training programs that riders were training up and down steps and doing things virtually and out on their bikes. But as things moved on, we were able to get our coaches out on the ground as well, supporting the athletes one-to-one and also in small groups. And obviously with the Emirates Arena being closed, that had a huge impact, particularly around our sprint and our track program. But again, we worked as smart as we could and as innovative as we could to find solutions to support our athletes. And I think we succeeded as best as we could. So that was some of the positives. Graham had asked me to really weave in how we support mountain biking. So I guess the starting point, and just as I go through the next few slides, just always remember that developing mountain biking in Scotland is an integral part of Scottish cycling. The project sits within Scottish cycling, we support it, and very much the project then leads through the mountain bike consortium that Graham spoke about earlier. It leads that strategy with all the multi-agency partnerships, but the actual, the added value that Scottish cycling is doing through Graham and the team is about really the glue within the sector, whether that be the clubs, whether it be the volunteers, the officials, but also the industry. And certainly I've been on this journey with Graham. He was on it slightly before me, but I've been on it from the start, and I'm a huge advocate, and I'm really proud of what the team and what Scottish cycling have achieved, in really strong partnership with a lot of other national bodies and a lot of agencies on the ground. So in terms of lead, as I said, our strategy is in four pillars: lead, grow, support, and partner. So in terms of lead, as a membership organisation, it is about that voice, that influence, the direction, whether that be about mountain biking, whether it be around sustainable use of trails, whether it be around access agreements with Forestry and Land Scotland, whether that be around influencing the government over wider investment in cycling. We see a duty and a responsibility to advocate and to support our members. We're not going to be the lead agency on active travel, and we will never claim to be. However, we know that the vast majority of our members do use public roads to train, to commute, and we know road safety is a concern. So again, through our growing voice, we can have influence, whether that be around supporting some of our national campaigns through agencies like Cycling Scotland, Sustrans, Paths for All, etc., Roadshare. So again, we want to be that voice. We want to represent our membership, which includes individuals, associations, and also groups. Importantly, we want to inspire the nation to cycle. So communications is really key, and this conference is part of that. But it is about, one is ensuring our members and our stakeholders understand what we do, but importantly, reaching a new communities that don't know about what the governing body does, communities that don't know where their trail centres are, and communities that don't know anything around their clubs or their network. So, we want to use, whether that's major events, such as 2023 World Cups, EWS, etc., to inspire people, to bring that inspiration to participation. But at the same time, it's not just all about the elite. It is about trying to inspire more people to become coaches, to get more female leaders, coaches, participants, for example. And again, all this is around how we engage with our partners, because we cannot do this alone with 30 odd staff under Scottish Cycling and DMBNS. So it very much is about how we work in partnership with other stakeholders, the volunteers, and importantly, local authorities, leisure trusts, and other agencies like British Cycling, UCI, UEC, and again, all the partners in DMBNS. The power of sport and the power of the bike that I'm sure Judy alluded to, I had to drop off when Judy was speaking. But the power of sport and the power of cycling, I make absolutely no apologies, but, other sports, definitely do not connect in the same way across those government portfolios that cycling can. And I think that we have a huge opportunity, particularly with the policy commitment around 2023, to not only sell the power of the sport, to embed sport at the heart of public health in this country, but cycling in particular, about its contribution to tourism that we've heard about this morning, to the growing economy, to jobs, to enriching people's lives, taking part in our sport, whether that be mental health, whether that be about resilient communities, strong clubs, and outlets from the day-to-day pressure that we all face. And again, the wider social injustice in this country. So through cycling, we know that cycling can deliver on those agendas, but it does need intervention, and it needs investment, proper investment. And hopefully the mental health project that Graham alluded to will come to life. COVID-19 I've already spoken about, but again, that's the governing body's responsibility to issue that, to negotiate with government, Sport Scotland, to get it over the line, and importantly to make sure the community understand it and adhere to it. We can't police it, but certainly we need our community to reinforce that. And just a huge thanks to the staff and all the partners out there for all the work they've done in that. Under lead as well, we need to be a well-run, well-governed sport. That includes financial accountability, but also importantly, it's around things like child protection, looking at the welfare of vulnerable adults, etc., making sure our clubs and our associations are fit for purpose, events are as safe as possible, and that we are there to support our volunteers, and also to build and to ensure that domestic cycling sport is healthy. But importantly, we have the participation programs to deliver that nation of cyclists. And obviously, as a chief executive, financial sustainability, without that, we don't have an organisation, and we can't plan the future. So bringing some of this to life, what does it actually mean? So under GROW is where most of our delivery outcomes and outputs, we put that under the GROW. So again, we represent over 18,000 members at the moment. That's a mix between BC individual members and also club members. So that's a combined total. Female membership, 19%. It's better than it was. I think at one point when I came into post, we were under 10%. So we have seen a considerable growth, but there's still a massive amount of work to be done in that area, as is with young people. So I make no apology that a lot of the focus that Scottish Cycling does is very much around trying to get more women, girls, and young people involved in our sport. Yes, we have to satisfy our membership. We have to ensure that there's a racing calendar for people like me in their 40s, for example. But we absolutely have to look at how we address the inequality within cycling and within our sport in particular. The Breeze programme, which again I think it's a fantastic programme. It's very much a proactive around training female leaders who really the champions. They work with local communities to put on social cycling. Bike and cake is a big part of it. But again, we're really proud that last year we had over 940 rides with over 3,300 participant sessions. And again, a lot of that is off-road. A lot of that is about utilising trails and introducing people to the hills and hopefully providing a bridge between recreational riders and also clubs and more structured activity. I've mentioned the activity booklets. Our RACE, RACE stands for a Regional Academy of Coaching and Education. So that's very much about the start of our talent programme. It's very much works in partnership with our clubs and our club coaches, with regional coaches. So it brings together the athletes at a certain level within clubs and the coaches. And we've put on over 200 race sessions in the last financial year. I'm really proud to say that we punch above our weight, and that has continued to grow in terms of the percentage of Scottish athletes on the GB programme. I know Paul Newnham is speaking after me today, so if you've not, I would sign into Paul's session, because I think what Paul and he's achieved through really a volunteer network of coaches and the clubs in cross-country mountain biking is quite incredible, and that journey is definitely worth listening to. But at the moment we've got 21 Scots on the world-class Great British Cycling Programme. I think that accounts for somewhere between 18 and 20%. So again, we're 9% of the population, so we're doing a pretty good job in there and punching above our weight. In terms of outcomes, and ultimately Sport Scotland invest in outcomes, and those outcomes are medals at the end of the day, particularly in the Olympic and Commonwealth disciplines that we are invested to deliver. A lot of our work is around the pathway and the system, but ultimately the outcome that we're looking to churn out at the other end are those medals. So part of our role is to get athletes onto that world-class programme, but also to get our athletes into professional trade teams, so that they actually have the best chance of delivering medals on the world stage. So delighted to say 3 world championship titles, 6 world championship medals, and 33 British championship medals, 16 of which are gold. So again, those are indicators, and we benchmark that against previous years. Things are moving in the right direction. So the system is working. We have limited investment, but the system is working. Support, very much around us enabling, how we support the community, how we build a healthy domestic cycle sport. So again, our national race calendar, which we have over 300 events per annum, cycle sport events on that. Then all the recreation activity, Breeze, etc., Go Ride, Let's Ride, that goes on top of that. But we had over 26,000 entries within our participation programme. In terms of our national championships and series, and again, that's all about the records as well, but we awarded over 247 national championship titles in the previous racing calendar. So again, that's a huge amount of work to support, to coordinate, to administer, and ultimately to really champion those volunteer organisers and associations that actually deliver a lot of these events in partnership with SC. Craig McCulloch, who hopefully a lot of you will know, is our coaching and education manager. The progression programme is very much around a really deep focused CPD programme for a number of coaches. So we've got 13 coaches on that at the moment. And there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes around looking at the future of our coach development education programme, how we make it more relevant, how we make it quicker, and hopefully how we can reduce some of that cost as well. But again, we have been able to subsidise a lot of scholarships, etc., through our clubs. And again, a lot of our clubs provide those types of scholarships as well. And I think Graham mentioned it earlier on in our presentation, the new mountain bike level 1 qualification that Christine has led. And again, that came out of, there was a gap. Our level 2 was very technical. And again, one of the barriers, particularly around introducing girls and women into the sport, is the sort of fear factor of, are they technically efficient? And we knew through evaluating our level 2 that one of the major barriers was around the level 2 was very, very technically led. So we acknowledged there was a gap, there was a need for a bridge to go from that participation into more structure. So we've developed the level 1, and we look forward to rolling that out post-COVID to hopefully make a massive impact around mountain bike leadership, but also around getting more people out in the hills and again using our trails in a sustainable and responsible manner. Partnering, the last pillar, and again, everything we do is in partnership, whether that's coaching to working with DMBNS. But our partnership pillar, the big outcomes to bring to light just now would be our facilities fund, which has been mentioned. Again, that's 8 million as a starter. We hope to leverage local and partnership investment. I mean, I hope that the end point of that is double that figure if we can. If that can leverage another 8 million, we'll see £16 million invested into cycle sport facilities over the coming years. Again, I mentioned before our partnership with Developing Mountain Biking Scotland, but also that wider consortium. I think, and as Graham alluded to, it's a really, really good example of cross-government working, cross-agency working, but also connecting business with clubs, with volunteers, and really looking at some real innovation. And again, the power of cycling and the power of the bike. I think that certainly there's a lot of lessons from the mountain biking partnership that can shape some of the policy conversation that's going on right now within government. And I sit on the 2023 policy group for UCI 2023. And certainly what's been happening in mountain biking, I think, is a great exemplar for us to look at how we can develop some of those concepts across cycling as a whole, and not just off-road or mountain biking. So again, I've mentioned the policy group. We'll continue to ensure that we represent the views and again, things that come from this conference today. I can give you a commitment that I'll be championing those things with support from Graham and briefings from Graham, of course, to take forward into that policy group. And we will influence that as much as possible to grow mountain biking in Scotland. I also sit on the Glasgow steering group. You're probably aware Glasgow are committing £15 million into UCI 2023. Part of that is a £3 million legacy local sport cultural engagement programme, which is about ensuring that the sport in Glasgow, but also the infrastructure in Glasgow around communities and getting more people on bikes, there is a sustainable, lasting impact once the event has been and gone. Major events, again, it's something we don't have a team on this, but I can assure you there's a huge amount of work goes on behind the scene, particularly with myself and other members of SLT, to try and influence the UK, the British major event strategy, to try and ensure that Scotland has a stake in that we work very closely, and huge thanks to Event Scotland over the last decade for their investment in bringing and securing and negotiating major events to come to Scotland. We've obviously got the flagship of the Downhill World Cup that I don't think I've missed one in my last 9 years, apart from this year, which of course was a COVID issue. And again, we're working with people like Chris Ball to try and look, how do we bring EWS to the heart of that as well? How do we, what disciplines as well are part of the growth plan? Where is gravel going to sit in the future? But major events is something that we want, not just 2023, but we need a programme before and after 2023. And we use those major events to put cycling in front of the public, to put it in front of the politicians, but also to celebrate the power of the bike and make sure that we have an impact around major events. And again, our partnership income, £2.5 million turnover as a governing body, a lot of that is about working in partnership. Without those partnerships and continued partnership working, Scottish cycling wouldn't be what it is today, and certainly neither would developing mountain biking in Scotland. And again, a highlight for me for DMBNS, and particularly the funding that has been secured around, building and maintaining our trail networks, and the work that Will and others are doing in the regions with the local partners to take that work forward. So I think that's a huge testament again to the success of DMBNS and mountain biking. This is a slide, and I'll just qualify this. It will be coming out in our annual report. Our infographic, there may be some tweaks on that. I'm not expecting you to read it, but again, we will make this available, and the final version of that will be available with your pack. So just touching on the opportunities. I mentioned diversity and inclusion. We have a girls and women's cycling development group. We have a young people's panel. So again, we're utilising those groups and the people on those groups to shape policy, particularly around getting more girls and women involved, but also other excluded groups and how we can do that. Reviewing our disciplines, how do we grow the sport? What does cross-country mountain biking look like over the next 10 years? So we've started a process that is looking at our associations, how Scottish cycling is set up, how it's governed around disciplines. But importantly, we will put in we will put in groups whose task will be to look at a vision and a plan for those disciplines. We've seen the work that British Cycling have undertaken over the last 12 to 18 months. We're looking to dovetail with that as much as possible. We want to create a vision for the disciplines. And for me, investment will follow where we're going to make the biggest impact. And I do believe that mountain biking has a huge opportunity in that area. Again, it could be disciplines like enduro, like gravel, but ultimately we will invest in outcomes. And it is about growing participation, it is about growing the sport, and ultimately there will be a talent and there will be a performance element to that. And I think mountain biking, and again, what Fergus has alluded to at the start today around our access legislation, around our landscape, I think we've got huge assets that we can take forward. I've mentioned our MBL qualification, so again, another huge opportunity there. And again, the work that Craig McCulloch is leading with all the staff team, looking at revamping our coach education offer, but importantly, our CPD offer and how we continue to engage with coaches and develop coaches beyond formal qualifications. Because without coaches, we won't develop athletes and we won't get the success at the end of the day. Clubs are a huge part of what we do. Where are our organisers going to come from? Where are our officials going to come from? Where are our volunteers going to come from? Who organises the coaching sessions the club runs? So we see clubs as a huge priority within our pillar. Sophie Sophie McCullough, head of participation development, has a team. We've now got club development managers in post. So as well as governance, a big priority is about growing the clubs, in particular around inclusion and with girls, women and young people. So a huge priority going forward. The final thing just to touch upon there is our foundation. We are looking to create a charitable foundation which will be arm's length. And again, the donation model that Graham spoke about to sustain the core and the heart of developing mountain biking in Scotland. You know, we're seeing the synergy there because we need a vehicle that organisations, whether that be charities, whether it be commercial businesses, whether it be philanthropic fundraising, we need a vehicle to allow that donation model to succeed. So what we are doing is working on a new charitable foundation, and I see that very much supporting a lot of the work that Graham and the team are doing. So more to follow on that in due course. And really finally, you know, those major events, we've got Tokyo ahead, Tokyo 2021 as it really is now. We've got, again, the Fort William World Cup in Fort William, the World Enduro Series happening in the Tweed Valley, Birmingham 2022, and then UCI 2023. And those major events give not only cycling and Scottish cycling the ability to showcase our athletes and also to inspire the next generation of athletes to want to be at the next World Championships, but also it gives us that access to the politicians, to the national bodies, to ensure that we do inspire and use these events to make a genuine impact around participation, the health and well-being of this nation, and importantly, Scots succeeding on the world stage. Conscious of time, so just to close, the mountain biking strategy, the three main outcomes of that is around participation, it's around sporting success, and it is about increasing that economic impact through tourism and product development. You know, this is going to take a collective effort. Graham and the team, myself, Scottish Cycling, we will do our part, and we're absolutely committed to doing our part, particularly around, you know, Scottish Cycling's contribution to elite success and also our contribution to growing the sport of cycling and the disciplines of cycling. And again, we will work through DMBNS and the partnership to deliver on the wider mountain bike strategy. And I certainly look forward to post-COVID and what lies ahead. So, without further ado, I would just like to open it up for questions and just thank you for listening. I hope you found that useful and you were able to take something away from that. Graham.
Yeah, thanks very much, Craig. No, a really informative and useful presentation for us. I think it's really clear to see that Scottish Cycling has grown as an organisation, continues to grow in its impact, and the number of people it engages and works with, and that's had made a real difference both to participation levels of cycling in Scotland and also for our athletes. I think another great opportunity that we have coming up as well, and it's around the £8 million Scottish Government, Sport Scotland and Scottish Cycling Legacy Fund for facilities. Can you give us a little bit more about your hopes and aspirations for that fund?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just seeing there's some questions on that in the chat as well. The facilities fund, you know, I'll be honest, I was banging the drum pretty hard that, you know, bringing the 2023 to Scotland was one thing, but, you know, there was going to be no real legacy for me unless we were going to ensure the sport was in a stronger place as a result of that. So, you know, Stuart Harris, who's been a huge supporter and a huge advocate, Stuart and I worked hard to really convince, firstly, his board, but also the government that if the Scottish Government committed new money, Sport Scotland would match that pound for pound. So Sport Scotland committed 4 million, and I'm delighted to say, as you know, the Scottish Government committed another 4 million. So for me, it is a top-down and a bottom-up approach. We know where the gaps are in facilities, particularly around those more sort of regional hubs and cycling centres. But importantly, the community side of it around things like pump tracks, skills areas, how we actually target hard-to-reach communities, for example, social inclusion and social deprived areas. How do we bring the mountains to the people in some of those really challenging areas of inequality? And that's a vision for me. And if I'm honest, and I'm happy to say it publicly, for me, the 8 million is something that's about I would like to see that as a seed funding. I'd like us to be able to demonstrate the impact of that 8 million that produces such a compelling case to say that you need to invest more in cycling facilities. Yeah, yes, active travel, segregated cycle routes is important, but so is the playgrounds. And I use the word playgrounds because it's a playgrounds to have fun. It's a playgrounds to basically give children and adults confidence to get on their bikes, to be in a safe environment without traffic, and importantly, an area where they can socialize with their friends, have a cup of coffee, have a cake in the cafe. But importantly, cycling has to have fun and to have that experience. So for me, I see a number of small community projects, particularly pump tracks and skills areas around communities all over Scotland, and that's the islands and the highlands, right down to Dumfries and Galloway and the borders. Hopefully, as far as even communities like Newcastleton, we've seen Hoyk put in a fantastic pump track recently. So if you've not seen it, go and have a look at that. So my vision is about to get more people engaged in cycling through those facilities, particularly young people, girls and women, to provide coaching spaces where coaches can actually train athletes and actually can teach people to have more skills and confidence. And we will make the case for hopefully increased investment in cycling. 8 million, it's not going to change the world. It's not going to, we can't build major international facilities. So we will not be looking to build an indoor velodrome or an indoor BMX facility, for example. It's very much going to be, closed road circuits, mountain bike trails, but also improving existing facilities. So if you think about something like Cathkin Braes, fantastic mountain bike facility right in the heart of a city, but it has no facilities, there's no toilets, there's no club rooms, there's no power. How do you run an event effectively? So what we want to do is look at where could we add value and enhance existing facilities that would grow participation, help improve domestic cycling sport, and ultimately develop athletes and allow for competition. So that's the vision around the facility side.
Brilliant. No, that's good. And I think we've only got a couple of minutes left. I've got a couple of questions here, so we'll go for fast answers here with these ones. On this one, so they've got is there ambition for Scottish cycling to create pathways for disciplines which are recognised by the UCI, such as trials, downhill, and things that are not currently represented at the moment? In 1 minute.
It's a great question. Yeah, I would say our ambition is yes. We would like to have pathways in every discipline. The reality is, we're funded as one sport, but we're many sports, and we've got many tribes within a discipline. If you look at mountain biking, at the moment, our performance funding is very clearly to deliver Commonwealth and Olympic medals. So again, there are live conversations with Sport Scotland about how do we diversify that, but that would require more investment. So yes, I would like to see us invest across other disciplines. Importantly, participation is key as well as performance, because I see us investing in pathways that grow participation, because we have to get more people on bikes as well as deliver medals. And people will move across disciplines, and that's absolutely fine. And people might leave the sport, but we also bring in people from other sports. So yes, we will do what we can, but we have to prioritize limited resource.
Just one last one as well, and another quick one. Just although it's a big subject, just wondering if you would kind of expand a little bit more on any plans or any thoughts on not just kind of increasing diversity in terms of gender, so getting more women and girls into, but also looking at people from different ethnic backgrounds accessing cycling, and indeed socio-economic groups.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we would like to do all of the above. I think when the gender imbalance is so big, we have to be addressing that. We absolutely will work, and we will look at opportunities about, how do we work through our clubs, but also through our local partnerships with Glasgow and others, where there may be, ethnic minority groups or really hard to reach groups with potential mental health challenges, or kids who are completely excluded in society and in residential care, etc. So, I think it's about how we work in partnership, where we drive investment to support that. But I don't see Scottish cycling necessarily delivering from the centre. I see that very much about how we can lead that, how we can drive a vision, create best practice, and then share that so other communities can pick that up. So yes is the answer, Graham, but it's going to come back to who wants to work with us as well. But the door is open, and if we can help those wider agendas, absolutely, we will do what we can.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Craig. I'm sure we're both going to enjoy the video coming up of the success that we had in XC Pathway. And thank you once again for your time today as well. And I'll see you at SLT tomorrow. Yeah.
Thanks, Graham. Thanks all. Take care. Stay safe.